Getting older can sometimes suck, and getting older in the age of social media definitely sucks. If you're tired of people telling you to age gracefully, then you're in the right place. This is all about living your best life at any age. First rule, don't call me ma'am. Hey everyone, I'm Jodi Miller, and this is Don't Call Me Ma'am. Do not call me ma'am. And definitely don't call my next guest ma'am either, because she's way younger.
I don't know about that, Jodi.
Way younger. But she is a very good friend of mine. I've known you for, God, it feels like 15 years, maybe more.
I think it's been 10.
Definitely 10
or 12, yeah.
Yeah, 10 and some change, we'll say. She is a comedian, just like me, model, just like me. Did you guys hear me? Just like me. She's a TV host, just like me, personality, influencer, and just like all around amazing, kick-ass woman who is trailblazing right now in a lot of different ways when we talk about
Jodi.
it. And I'm so excited to have her here. So start clapping right now. And by that, I mean pull over to the side of the road. Don't clap while driving, because that's dangerous. For Jenn Sterger. Yay!
Yay!
Oh my God, what a wild ride you're on right now.
It's been an interesting year, for sure.
To say the least.
Honestly, though, it started last year, you know.
Well, it actually started many years ago.
It truly did, yeah.
It just took a little hibernation, a little break, a little bit.
Yeah.
For the spotlight type of things. For those of you that have not seen this documentary, I suggest you see it immediately, because it's really amazing and eye-opening, and it's just, it's really well done, and I'm just so happy that you finally got to get the opportunity to really tell your story. So it's called Untold, The Fall of Favre.
Yep.
Right? And it's, when I first met you, we talked about it. This was a long time ago. I actually was unfamiliar with the story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A slightly different generation, which is why I was kind of like not in that loop, and I was
Honestly,
probably doing a lot of drugs.
But also, I think it's just more like LA. That's the reason I moved out here, is that people out here.
Right, yeah, oh yeah.
Didn't. Yeah, they just didn't care about sports.
They
were like, football, I don't know her. You know,
exactly. Football, what? But here's
I love that.
Yeah, well, I'm from Jersey, and I was bartender there, and Jersey and New York, and I only cared about sports if I was working,
because it made you money.
Yes, it made you money. So whatever team was, I was like, yeah,
go Jets.
Yeah, love them so much. Those Rangers, go get them, boy. But yeah, so I didn't, and also, by the way, I mean, this is a good and a bad thing, but there wasn't the social media there is now. If this had happened today to you, it would have been...
It's interesting because there was social media, but there wasn't. There was like a lot more blogs. Right. Remember that? Which was kind of like the wild, wild west, yes. Because anybody could have a blog, and you could write whatever you wanted to, and there was no policing of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you could put straight libel, like straight slander on the internet, and there's really nothing you could do about it, because it was some guy in his mom's basement, you know? But he was posing as a news site, and you really couldn't parse apart what was real and what wasn't, which is kind of similar to what's happening now.
I was going to say, it sounds very similar.
Some things haven't changed, you know, but this was like in the heyday of Twitter. Like Twitter was just popping off then, and I think people will be like, really, was this girl traumatized from a few dick pics? And it's like, no, it's hearing that many people's opinions about you and seeing people that you work with and you respect.
It's
make
what
a bunch of assumptions.
After.
Exactly.
It's not so much the incident.
No, it's the way society treats you for something that was done to you.
Absolutely. And then
that's the part that's traumatizing, for sure.
It was sort of like a ripple effect. You know what I mean? It was like this one thing that happened. And for those of you that don't know, Jen was a victim. You were one of the first, like, sort of Me Too's before there were any Me Too's.
Yeah. Hashtag Me Too soon.
You was. Yes, it was.
Yes.
It was. And you started getting, and by the way, dick pics were also just not a thing.
They weren't.
I mean, they weren't a thing.
I think I'm the reason Snapchat was invented.
They should call it Gen Chat. I don't know why you didn't capitalize on that.
I mean, anybody that thinks the people that started Snapchat were like, wouldn't it be fun if you could send disappearing pictures to your friend? Like, we know what you were doing.
We definitely know what you were doing. So, yes, you were sexually harassed by a very famous football player.
Yeah, but it was the power dynamic.
It was the power dynamic
that people don't realize.
Yeah.
It's like, it's different when it's a dude that's that you're dating or a dude that's interested in
Right,
you, or even a
of course.
random stranger on the internet.
Yes.
Because none
Which
of
is
those.
how I prefer to get my pics, guys.
But that's the thing is, none of those people can impact your livelihood.
Right.
They'll impact your mental health and maybe your, brain for the
By the
day.
way, received those. I'm sure you have too, but I'll just see them in the other, the other folder where you don't, you're not friends with them, especially like on Facebook, and it'll be like a blurred photo, and you like press it, and you're like, is it a puppy or is it a dick? Like you just don't know what it's going to be, and then it's usually a dick and a puppy, and you're just like it doesn't. To me, I'm just like delete. I know some people would be like,
and they're never flattering. I don't care what guys think.
terrible
They're never
angle.
Yeah, and they look like mugshots.
Yeah, seriously.
You know what I mean?
That would actually be great to have like dick pic mugshots. Like just standing behind a screen with the inches.
the numbers?
With the numbers. There you go, guys. Now we really know your size.
Like number 4, turn to the left. That's the one.
That's the one. I remember that one. Yeah. I mean, so the biggest question I have for you is, how do you feel about the way you were portrayed, how it all came out, what I mean? Like, what is the feedback, and how do you genuinely feel now that it is out and people are finally seeing it?
I think, look, you never have control of the edit. You know what I mean? Like once you sit down for, like people don't realize I sat for I think a total of 7 hours.
Right.
Over 2 days doing these interviews, and they were actually like several months apart. I taped the first interview, which was like the hard one, which was like all of the actual incident itself, and then the investigation with the NFL, etc. I sat for that interview in June of last year. Okay. And then Netflix saw like the cuts of it, and they were like, wow, this girl's actually really compelling, and she's kind of the canary in the coal mine for this whole situation. Right. And we ignored her. We not only ignored her, we ostracized her, and we kicked her out, and we made her the scapegoat. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, and she's very credible, and she presents really compelling evidence. So they're like, we actually want to show people more about her because we want to establish her credibility and the fact that like, hey, she accepts responsibility for the parts of this that was hers. Like she's not shrugging it all off. Like I've always been upfront with you or really anyone that I'm like, look, I played the game. Right. I played the game that anyone coming up in the early to mid 2000s did, which is like, if you have to own your sexuality, you have to monetize it, you know what I mean? And that's what was rewarded at the time. This is like the era of like Perez Hilton, the up the skirt shots when girls would get out of the car, you know?
And people have careers based on sex tapes. Yeah. That they did purposely. I mean, I'm just saying, look, it's your choice though. Yes, but it's empires, but it's your decision. It's your choice.
That's the difference. Yes. That's the thing people don't realize is they were like, why did you release this? And it's like, I didn't. I got sold out. Mm-hmm. I got sold out by somebody I got Linda Tripped.
Oh, people don't know who Linda Tripped. I do.
You know who that is. Yeah. It's the woman who sold out Monica Lewinsky. But that's basically what happened, you know? But mine, I think one of the differences is mine was by a journalist. And a journalist, air quotes. And the difference is when Me Too stories came out, they were told by women. And when this came out, it was told by a man. Who didn't care about the details, who didn't have like the forethought to think this might damage me. Right. He was just more like, screw Brett Favre. And just completely forgot that, hey, this might backfire and she is going to be the collateral damage.
There's another person involved. It's not just screw one person. It's get all the facts. Figure out all the, you know what I mean, the players before you just...
And look, to his point, you know, in the documentary, he said, if there's two scumbags in this, it's me and Brett Favre.
Yes, he did own up to that, and how did you feel about that when you saw that?
Honestly, I have an interesting relationship with AJ now because he's the only person that's ever offered me an apology.
And that goes a long way.
It does. When it's
really
sincere.
Does, actually. When it is sincere, if somebody says, I am genuinely sorry, this was a mistake, I should have handled it better, I should have not done it, then you are able, I am able to forgive and move past because we're all human, we make mistakes, we're younger versions of ourselves, thinking about all the players, thinking about the implications. And when you own up to that and, you know, want to do better, I believe a lot of people deserve a second chance in that respect.
I think that's something that like people our age have done the work on themselves enough to recognize. Do you know what I mean? And that is like, and that's probably something you experience as a mom is like making sure like you model what like repair looks like. You know what I mean?
100%.
And because like that was the thing is I kept telling my story thinking that it was going to heal me and save me.
Right.
And the thing is the people that were asking me to tell my story were never interested in what my story was.
No.
They were interested in whatever I could tell them that would service the angle they wanted. Whereas with Netflix was like the 10th person to come to me and go, hey, we want to do this documentary. And they, you know, like the director even was like, you know, it'll be told by a woman. And I just was like, hey, listen, Rebecca, with all due respect, I go, no one hurt me worse than women did during this. And I was like, so you're going to have to come with something better than that, you know?
Can you elaborate on that for people that don't?
Yeah, like when the whole Favre thing happened, and when I say happened, I mean when it became public.
Right.
Women that I admired, respected, worked with, considered coworkers, or women that had even like that I had mentored, you
Right.
know, they used it as like a stepping stone to advance their own career. Like they wrote articles and they would say things like, you know, she must have done something to deserve this. I find it really hard to believe, like something doesn't add up, blah, blah, blah. Like they cast shadow and doubt on me.
Right.
And those same women were some of the ones that beat their chest the loudest when Me Too finally hit the sports industry.
Right.
And I just casually reminded them like, hey, this was also you.
Right.
Like you were part of the problem, you know? And I think that, look, as a comic, I think that's what we do to society all the time. We're there to hold up mirrors to people.
All the time.
Yeah.
And it works when we're on stage.
And that's the thing though, is like I've had a lot more success in comedy, but I think it's because I've surrounded myself with women who aren't interested in doing that because like
Right.
And look, there are those types still
course.
and there's those types in every industry and in every walk of life, but I've had amazing mentors like you, you know, that are like, hey, that's all noise, that's all
It
BS.
is.
And that's the
Yes.
thing is you've never involved yourself in any girl bullshit or drama, and like the women you associate with don't do that either.
No. And I think that was, and I'm not saying that your upbringing or your childhood or adolescence was different, but when I was growing up, I found myself, if I was in those situations surrounded by girls that were drama filled,
Yeah.
or all of that stuff, that I would remove myself from it.
That's smart. That was the smart thing to do. You know what I did, Jodi? I became friends with those girls.
Well, I mean, that's
Because you're like,
yes.
if I'm
No,
friends with you, you'll
yes.
keep me safe.
No, 100%.
And that is exactly what
But I
does
did
not happen.
But I was friends with them, but I would still remove myself and be. But here's the thing: that was sort of just a shot in the dark if that was going to work, and it was a different time. It was you know what I mean? Like I'm a decade older than you, so that is a difference. You know what I mean? In like how women are changing. You know, every year. When I was talking to Nicole about this, another female comic, we were talking about our daughters.
But she's amazing.
But we were talking about how like every year it gets younger and younger that girls start getting pitted against other girls. It's just terrible, you know what I mean? So, but what's really unfortunate though, because don't get me wrong, I've been bullied, I've had fights with girlfriends that have, you know what I mean, just caused a lot of turmoil in my life, but it happened to you. You were sort of betrayed and thrown under the bus by women sort of in a public way. And that's really,
it hits a different level.
It totally hits a different level. So of course it would only make sense because I remember when I first met you and we started working more on your comedy, you were so guarded. It was a totally different version of you. I don't even know that person anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And of course I don't blame you for being guarded, but as someone who coaches people in comedy, I like to get to the reason behind that. But what is, obviously this thing happened, but why so guarded? What is going on there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now like we really hear the whole story.
For sure. And, you know, like you were saying, like you don't know where someone comes from or like what their childhood is. And it's like, we're all just replaying out dynamics that we grew up with, you know? And, for me, like, I know that a lot of that has to do with like my mom, you know, my mom is a very strong woman, but like emotionally, like not the most equipped to like handle a kid that was more sensitive. You know what I mean?
I think
they do the best. I think she did the best she could with the resources that generation had.
I was just going to say,
you know what I mean?
We've talked about this before, but it was a different generation. Like I look at my brother and some of the stuff that he dealt with if he was born at this time, or I have other friends if they were born at a different time when.
Are you the youngest or oldest?
I'm the youngest.
Youngest?
When the dialogue was just, more open about your mental health or issues, you know what I mean, or like any of the things we now know, you know what I mean, or we're more open.
For sure.
We talk about it. I'm not speaking. I can't speak today. We're more open in our dialogue about these things. And that really is helping the next generation of kids. So your mom, of course, yes, she did the best she could. If it was today, she'd probably have more resources or know other people that were also maybe dealing
I don't know
with
about
it.
that.
Or not.
My mom was the jock, you know what I mean? Like my mom was like, she was a 6-sport athlete.
Right.
She was like, rub some dirt on it, you know what I mean? Like that's just who my mom was, because that's how she was raised.
You have a little bit, you have that too. That's like half of who you are.
Jodi, that's just because I don't want to wear regular pants. That doesn't mean I'm still a very soft, sensitive girl underneath it all. But I think the thing that people read as toughness is actually, it's just
Protection.
It's protection.
Well,
it's a
I'm the
defense
same.
mechanism.
I have the same thing that you have, and I mean, I meant that by. You are a sports girl. So you do have the softness, but you also have the competitive edge. You have that sports mentality. And I do too. And I've definitely talked about this before, growing up with my brother, we had, a strange dynamic and, there was a lot of fighting between us, and my parents took him to go see someone, which back then was also like, wow, what?
What, exactly.
But they didn't take me because I was very independent and I was very strong-willed, and that was a protection mechanism.
Her grades are good. She's doing well at everything.
No, she's like totally, she's got her like group of friends. She seems fine. You need to pay attention to the child that is very independent and strong-willed and check in with them. It doesn't always mean that they need that, but you need to, because we will put up those walls to protect ourselves, and we'll come across as tough.
And then we do it the rest of our lives in every relationship we've ever been in.
We cry a lot in parking lots with Jack in the Box.
That's why I was late. I'm sorry.
She was really crying just in the parking lot eating Jack in the Box. I mean, come on now. So let me ask you a question, though. Is there anything, now that the documentary is out, is there anything that you wish you had brought up, or that made it, was on the cutting room floor that didn't come out, that you wish, you know what I mean, or you said something? There
were a couple of things that I was a little disappointed that didn't make it in. I really felt like they let the NFL off the hook, but I think it's because they wanted to keep the documentary around an hour, and they also wanted to keep the focus on him and like his story, and not like make it about the NFL, when the NFL's chapter and like how they handled it and how they protected him, I think it can be its own documentary altogether, because I mean, I'm not the only person that I feel like they've used as a scapegoat in that kind of regard.
And it's not just the NFL.
No, it's any major corporate business like that hires that has to protect their investors and has to protect their shield, and that's why like I've spent a lot of time in the last decade like really protecting and like speaking up for independent contractors. You know what I mean? Because like, look, as artists, that's how we're always going to get hired. Right. You know what I mean? But I think we also, because we are always looking for that next gig, are also subject to a lot of abuse in like the workplace, because we don't know when our next paycheck's coming,
right. Absolutely.
And so we're willing to put up with a lot more stuff than most people are. But I think that, I've really, I'll beat the drum for this all day, where I'm like, hey, like HR is not there to protect you. They're there to protect the company. Mm-hmm. You've got to protect yourself,
There's no HR in our everyday life. Either.
Honestly, though, Jodi, exactly. There's no HR in our regular life, but there's no HR in comedy. But for some reason, I feel like we do a pretty good job of policing ourselves.
We do, I think. And now, remember, I started a long time ago. And when I first started, there definitely was none of that. And I definitely put up with a lot of stuff. Thankfully, again, I come across as I will kick your fucking ass.
I think I do too. I think that's why I don't get it either.
I don't get it either. And I'm incredibly grateful. And I've definitely been in situations that I'm like, oh, I don't like this situation.
Yeah.
But not a terrible situation where I know a lot of other female comics have been put in those situations. So I've been fortunate, but I definitely will protect anyone and speak out on their behalf.
If I find out it's happening to another woman, I'm John Wick.
Yes.
Truly. I'm like, let's go. Like,
I mean, but and having said that though, honestly, just, you've definitely used social media as a platform to speak up against, all of the haters and people that are, that are doing terrible things or saying terrible things. And I admire that about you because you call people out. And
I don't. It's a waste of my time.
It really is.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting in a lot of ways, but here's the thing. It's like you're definitely giving a voice to some women or some people that just need to hear it, to need to know that they're not alone. Yes, of course it was.
The doc wasn't just about telling my story. It was about, there are so many people out there that will never get the opportunity to confront what happened to them, that will never get the opportunity or the platform to speak up.
Right.
And it's completely frozen them in this part of their life. And it's so funny because, like, again, we've worked together a ton, and I've never talked about this on stage.
I know, and remember I brought it up to you many times to talk about it on stage, mainly because it is a form of therapy, and it is a way of working through certain situations. Now that the documentary is out, do you feel now like you're going to talk about it?
Yes, but in a different way. Whereas before, I think I was trying to be too and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and it's like, it felt so unrelatable.
Right.
But now, after seeing people's reactions to the documentary, I'm realizing that, there are a lot of people that have been in this position, that are still in this position. Yes. And there is more common link there than I thought. And I don't need to get trapped in it's a football story. It's not a football story. No. It's a person story. Right. It's a abusive power story. Yes. And if I stay in that, I feel like it's so much more relatable and it can help other people.
It's so much more relatable, but even I remember when we were talking about this years ago before, everything came out, I think, yes, you were like, okay, this happened. But truthfully, though, you could have still taken the football out of it. I think, and I don't blame you, for a long time when you first started out, there was a part of you, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when you got on stage, you were afraid that everybody would remember.
Yeah. And I felt like it walked on stage behind me.
And the truth is it didn't. Like, every audience, nobody thinks that, unless that's in your intro. You know how like audiences are now. And I know you were starting out. Like, I had different, misconceptions of what the audience would be like too. And you obviously had something that very traumatic happen to you. So of course you would have that, that sense of like, oh God is following me on stage, when in reality people were just like, just make us laugh. Like, we don't know you. And also like, and if your name sounds sort of familiar, maybe it's because we've seen you do comedy before. Yeah. Like, I just knew that nobody would, like think that, but I understand where you were coming from. But I mean, just even talking about it, because I used to have a dick pic joke. I feel like every girl had a dick pic joke. But I mean, I used to get unsolicited dick pics all the time. I don't anymore.
Have you ever had one airdrop to you?
No, because I don't have an iPhone.
Oh, that's right. No, that's right. Your texts are green.
I know, guys.
Jodi.
But guys, I have a feeling I'm switching over to the dark side. Don't worry.
Jodi is that chick that ruins every group chat.
I know. Nobody can seem to get over it, guys. But you know what?
Jodi, if you don't want to be called ma'am, you should definitely not have an Android.
Okay. First of all, I don't like group chats. So just FYI. When I see a group chat come in, I'm like, oh, gross. Because when you try to get a joke out, you're always like 5, what I mean? People fire up, so, like, it's too fast. I can't get my joke in. So I just leave the group.
I love that group chats for you are just like, I'm workshopping material here, guys.
Yeah, well, it's like a 6-person audience. 2-drink minimum, guys.
You're like, right now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a full room.
But here's the thing, and I think did we talk about like airdropping dick pics? Because that's hilarious. Like, do you know like where that dick pic's coming from when it comes in?
No, it's just like, so-and-so wants to send you something, and it pops up in the preview. So like, you don't even get to like choose whether or not you're going to accept it. Like, the preview pops up. I've had it done to me at a bowling alley. I've had it done to me at a grocery store. Like, I finally was like, Jen, you have to turn off your airdrop.
Yeah.
Because like, obviously they're not just doing it to me.
But was the bowling alley dick pic with like the little bowling shoes next to it? Because that would be cute. I mean, I think honestly, if you dressed up your dick a little bit better and you made it a nicer picture, we'd be more apt to like be like, all right, this is fun.
Yeah, zhuzh it up a little bit, you know?
By the way, nobody's airdropping a vagina pic.
No.
My daughter called it a vagina the other day. She literally told me that my vagina is really big. When I got out of the shower, she was like shaming me. She was harassing me. I said, no, your vagina is just really small. My vagina is really normal size, guys. Just
How old is Mackenzie now?
She's 4.
Oh God.
I know.
You're hitting the fun ages.
Fun. Yeah, it's fun. And also like,
But is it cool to see her developing like her own little sense of humor?
Oh yeah, she has her own sense of humor. And it's also frightening. And well, it's frightening
Because you're
humor,
catching strays.
I am, seriously. But like literally though, I'm thinking about like your situation, your life, what I went through in my life, totally different. And now her generation, like what the fuck is that gonna look like?
I actually, look, we can't control what happens in society, but we can control what happens in our houses.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And you, like...
But think back to you. We were just talking about your mom. Think back to your mom, and
Jodi, here's the thing.
If you tried to have this conversation with me, I'd be like,
You've done the work on yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, you wanted her for so long, and forgive me if I'm speaking out of turn, but you wanted her for so long, and you prepared for her for so long, and you were like I feel like you were making yourself ready for her for a long time and becoming the woman that you were supposed to be. Like, I think about that all the time when I'm like, you know, I'm turning 42 this year. I don't even know. I stopped counting after 35.
I know, seriously.
But I was actually thinking, you know, last night I was like, man, I have this thing that happens to me once a month that reminds me that my time is almost done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
That my window for that is almost done. And it's like, do I want to pump my body full of hormones, or do I want to like look for another? There's so many different ways to become a mom.
So many different ways to become a mom. So many beautiful ways. I was exactly your age when I was like, okay, let me try to pull these eggs out. Let me see what I
heard
can do.
it's so expensive. It's so invasive.
It's very invasive. There's a lot of, you know.
My body already hates me. Like, I woke up Monday and I was like, did I throw out my back? And it's like, no, that's PMS. But
no,
still,
I wanted
it's
to ask you that question too, because you definitely have, you know, for as long as I've known you too, other like health issues, other stuff. Now, let me ask you a question, because I don't know if you believe this. I mean, I truly believe this, but like that our body holds a lot of our emotional pain. Oh, yeah. And it goes, you know what I mean? And it affects us. Emotional pain affects us physically. Do you think a lot of your health issues came from that, or did they start before that?
Most of my health stuff started in 2012. It was 2 years after the Favre stuff had become public, and look, for 2 years I was running.
Yeah,
I was running.
You had adrenal fatigue.
I was trying to get my career back in order, which was hard because I'd lost everything. I lost my television show. Like I was bartending again, you know what I mean? Like, to pay for publicists and lawyers and all kinds of stuff. And I was just trying to get my foot back in the entertainment door, you know? And then I got out to LA. And when I got out to LA and I finally stopped running, my body went into full collapse. Yeah. I got so sick. Like, they couldn't tell what was wrong with me. I saw every specialist imaginable because I had very visible symptoms. Right. I had very physical manifestations of this. And finally I saw a doctor that's like, he works with the Lakers and like Tom Brady, and like he's like Dr. House essentially. Love it. And when I met him, I was like, what is this? And he goes, Jen, someone did something really bad to you. And he goes, and I'm so sorry. And it was like the first time, you know, like that a medical professional had like stopped to consider everything that I'd gone through and not tried to just prescribe a pill, you know what I mean? And was like, hey, like, yeah, there's things that we can do to assist your body in this healing process, but like, you've got to start prioritizing your health and taking care of you, you know? Because also, like, I did the girl thing, which is when you can't control anything else in your life, you try to control your food intake. So I went down that path for a while, and we all know how that ends up.
Not great, guys.
No, not at all. To the point where, like, I had friends that were like, okay, this isn't funny anymore. Like, you're not hot anymore. It's scary. Right. You know? Where I got so thin, they were just like, no. But again, it was what was being rewarded at the time with like women's bodies. It's like, how small can you get?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my God.
And in the mid 2000s, we got small.
Really small. I mean, I didn't, but everybody else did.
Stop, Jodi.
But
you're like, okay, humble brag.
No, I mean, it was like whatever, and I got thinner than that. Whatever. I have my mom's body. Skinny fat. We call it skinny fat. Where like nothing's really toned, but it kind of looks good.
Never.
But I mean, I think now people talk about emotional pain and how it presents itself physically, and we're taking it seriously now, how trauma just like lives in your cells for many, many years and waits. You know what I mean?
That's the thing is when I see like, because I work with a lot of young comics too now. When I see girls trying to push through something really, really hard and still take as many shows as humanly possible, I'm like, hey, you can stop for a second.
Yes.
Absolutely. I go, you can take a beat and you can like process this. I go, because if you don't process this, your body's going to decide when it wants to process this, and you're not going to like when that happens.
Yeah.
Because it's going to shut you down and you're not going to have any control. You have control now. You have control now, and you can take agency now and go, hey, maybe I need the week to like go to the beach, clear my head, go to therapy, go to yoga, journal. You know what I mean? Take as long as you need to. Like, the industry's still here. It's not going anywhere.
I mean, it's such good advice, because so many people think you have to just keep working harder and not smarter, and you have to keep going, and you have to work.
That's
you
burnout.
Sort of like you push the pain down, which is why I love stand-up, because you can, that saying, which I love, is that you can spend 10 years on the couch or 10 minutes on stage. To me, that's never been more true. Whenever there's something very difficult or you're going through something difficult and you talk about it on stage, it's relatable, even though you think it's not relatable. So you taking that terrible time in your life and then talking about it, in different ways, in various ways, you are now connecting with other people that might not have had the exact same thing happen, but they had a version of that happen, and they can relate to that. Yeah. It's very therapeutic in that way. Instead of just like holding on to it and praying that it goes away or trying to work it out of your body, it will always find a way to come. I'm not just talking about like ulcers, which is the most obvious, I'm talking about other physical manifestations.
I had something, I got diagnosed with something called autonomic dysfunction, which basically meant I broke my nervous system.
Oh my God.
And it still pops up every now and again, and it's almost like this like when you need to change your brake pads, where it's like you feel like something's not right. Yeah. Oh yeah. They're like,
as you're walking, everyone's like, Jen's coming. She's like,
but it's like, oh, you need to pump the brakes and you need to change your brake pads, and I can always tell, but like autonomic dysfunction, what it does is it can affect any of the systems that your body normally does on its own without thinking. So like I started having blood pressure issues where I couldn't regulate my blood pressure, where I'd stand up and I'd faint. Or if I moved too quickly, I'd faint, or I'd get super dizzy. Or I couldn't regulate my body temperature, which was a nightmare. I had a seizure because they made me tape a video in an ice skating rink, and I couldn't regulate. Like I went into hypothermia.
Oh my God.
And then another time it affected my glucose. And it was affecting my body's ability to process glucose. And it's just, what it came down to is my nervous system telling me like, hey, we can't handle all the stress you're putting us under. But the most telling sign, and I think it was, and it's definitely not like a medical emergency, but one sign that my nervous system was broken was I caught myself Googling one day, why can't I laugh?
Oh my God.
Truly, I was like, why can't I laugh? And I found this amazing shrink that helped people like do somatic processing, and like teaches you how to get this stress out of your body, or work through the stress, or acknowledge your stress, because a lot of us are like, I don't feel anything, everything's fine.
That's me, 100% me until I do.
Yeah, but she taught me how to work through feelings and trust that like feelings weren't going, like if I got them out and I expressed them, it was actually going to be better for me than if I held them in long term and caused myself physical harm.
Yeah.
And yeah, but yeah, when I had to Google why can't I laugh?
Can you laugh now?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just curious though, like what was I mean, I know you found this amazing therapist, but what else did Google say? Why can't I laugh? Were they like, because something's not funny? Like, I almost feel like they have to have had that sort of like, because you didn't watch anything funny.
You know what it is it's something, it has something to do with your body not being able to be surprised anymore because it's in such a state of shutdown. And that's where laughter it's the difference between being funny and witty. You know what I mean? Is that element of like surprise. Where's the turn? Where's the line between, oh, that's funny and that's amusing? you know?
Well, we know a lot of people. They come to a lot of shows where they enjoy the show, but they don't laugh out loud. And you like hone in on that asshole. And you're like, dude, are you not having a good time? They're like, I am.
But now I have so much sympathy for those people because I'm like, one, they don't know what their face is doing. Which is also,
yes, definitely.
That also is that can be very valid.
Yeah, I think you and I used to talk about that. You used to have a joke about that.
I brought that back.
Yeah, it's great.
I brought that back recently, but now I say it's medical.
Perfect. Yeah.
But it's true, you know? Now I have so much sympathy when I see somebody that doesn't laugh at something because I'm like, oh man.
They don't even know.
Yeah, they don't know.
Sometimes they don't know. They don't know. Yeah. And sometimes people do think things are funny, but yeah, they don't like vocalize it.
I've been spending a lot of time on the road with Anna Akana.
Right.
And she talks a lot in her hour about mental health and obviously her younger sister's suicide. And it's interesting because her audience, you know, is so devoted to her because they feel seen and they feel like someone else has experienced. A lot of them have experienced personal loss. And so it was something that I had to remind myself, you know, was that a lot of these people were just, you know, like they were going through this type of stuff. Yeah. And so when you understand that her audience is, one, they're super polite. They're very smart. They're very educated. But like a lot of them, this is like their first comedy show. Wow. And so like knowing that and like basically almost giving them permission to laugh.
Yes.
And being like, hey.
Especially when it's a heavy subject.
Yeah, you're safe here.
Yes.
I'm going to say a bunch of silly, ridiculous shit. And it's okay to laugh. And like, that's what we want to be, is an escape for you. We'll tackle the other stuff later.
Right.
But like for this next 2 hours, like this is for you to release.
Yes.
You know?
So let me ask you, I have a couple questions still to ask you, but you just brought up their first comedy show. Do you remember your first comedy show? Because it made me think of mine. Do you remember the very first comedy show you ever saw, or the very first comedian?
I was going to say saw or performed. Okay.
No. The first one that you saw, like, and did you know you were going to do comedy when you did?
Yes.
Okay.
I knew I was going to do comedy. My first comedy show was actually an improv show.
Okay.
And
do you remember who was performing?
No, but it was at Pleasure Island in Orlando. Do you remember when Disney used to have that all adult theme park that like parents could bring their kids?
I went there with my friend Marnie on her bachelorette weekend. We went there when I was still in Jersey.
That's the place. That's the place.
Yeah, I went to House of Blues. We took some weird creepy photo with some weird creepy person. Yeah.
But I think we went there. My parents took me there when it first opened, and there weren't a lot of places you could take the kids in there.
Right.
But they did do an improv show that was allegedly okay for kids.
So it was improv. It wasn't stand-up.
Improv.
Okay.
But I remember watching it even as a kid, and when I walked out of the show, I said, you know what would be cool is if they wrote all of that down and practiced it.
They're like, wouldn't be improv, but okay, yeah.
They were like, that's called stand-up.
Yes,
but yes, that's a very good idea, Jen.
Yeah, yes, all right. But I remember when I gotten out of college, I won a joke contest in college, but I just did it just so I get $100 and we could just like drink all night. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be a stand-up. And I was in Long Island.
You were like, this is for my girls.
I know. It's like, come on, guys. It was definitely a dick joke that I told on stage. But I remember I was out of college. I was in Long Island with my friends, my college friends, and we went to go see stand-up one night. I don't remember who was performing. And I'm sure I laughed and had a great time, but I did not walk out of there like, I want to be a stand-up. I mean, I never wanted to be a stand-up. I just wanted to be an actor. It wasn't until, somebody was like, you should do stand-up. And I thought, oh, if I do stand-up, I'll be a better actor. So I'm always curious, like, what brought you into the stand-up? There's
two other things that I think of when I think of that. One is there's just this night that I went to the Comedy Cellar when I lived in New York, pre all the Favre stuff happening. And that night the lineup was insane. It was like Jeselnik, Amy Schumer. It was just, it was anybody who was anyone that was coming up at that time in that scene in New York. And it was just banger after banger after banger. And I was like, man, I want to get up. This might be the alcohol talking. I want to get up there and do that. I could do that.
So many people in the audience think that.
And yeah, I was delusional.
No, you obviously can do that.
No, I wasn't. But I was too scared for a long time. And then I remember towards the end of the Favre saga, when I was like getting ready to do my interview with GMA to like get out of it and just reclaim my life, I got a call from Norm Macdonald.
Oh my God.
And he had a comedy show on Comedy Central that was about sports. And he was like, Jen, I want to pitch you this bit. And it's going to be old men texting younger women and like where we're going wrong. And he pitched me the most perfectly Norm Macdonald bit. And I took it to my reps and I was like, hey, can I do this? And they were like, no. They're like, Jen, if you participate in this, no one will take you seriously as a victim. And I was like, guys, they already don't.
Right.
But of course I had to go back to Norm and be like, hey, they won't let me do this. I'm so sorry. It's an amazing opportunity and I'm so grateful for it. And it would have been a dream to work with you. And he goes, you know, Jen, he goes, I don't know you all that well. He goes, but you seem like a good kid. And he goes, that just got caught up in a really shitty situation. And he goes, but if I can give you some advice, he goes, I understand where your reps are coming from. He goes, but the sooner you can take control of this, the sooner you can own this and make something with it, he goes, it's not going to have any more power over you. And he goes, and that's when you'll get your life back. And I thought about that moment for a really long time. And I mean, I still do to this day where I'm like, oh, and he checked in with me too when he saw that I was doing stand up. He's like, that's a really cool, kid, you know? And so it's one of those moments that I was like, it's just someone going, hey, I see something in you that's funny and you can do something with this pain.
Yes. And that's what I love about stand-up. When I've worked with veterans, I've worked with middle school students. It's about taking your power back when you're talking about stuff, like especially with middle school students.
I was going to say, that's got to be so empowering for them.
So great because I really realized,
trauma.
Yes, I realized that that's where a lot of their insecurities about what they consider to be their shortcomings were started stemming from. Like that was the time where they were like, oh, I'm feeling, fat, or I'm not tall enough, or I have acne, or like whatever they were feeling, because their bodies are changing. They're going hormonally through a lot of changes, and people are starting to, you know what I mean? Like sort of go off into their cliques. It was just, it's the beginning of it.
It's the beginning of the end.
Yes,
it's the beginning
really
where all our neuroses happen.
Exactly. It's right there. It's like you're leaving your childhood and you're now entering this next phase. And it was so great working with them, 7th and 8th graders, and giving them like a voice on a stage to talk about like, maybe I'm not the tallest, but if I can make jokes about it, before you make jokes about it, like it's my power. Like
it's our defense mechanism.
It really is. But it's also like they were the ones writing the jokes. Like this one kid who was an 8th grader was very, very short, and I could tell that he was probably getting bullied by a lot of kids. And he had some of the best I'm short jokes that if anybody ever said anything, he'd be like, I can do it so much better.
I can't believe you know Brad Williams that long.
I know. Can you believe it? Hey, Brad. It's so short.
But that's awesome.
But it was really great to watch them stand on stage and have that new sense of confidence. It was really beautiful, and it just made me think, wow, if so many people could use that tool, the comedy. I mean, a lot of people do, but a lot of people don't know how to use that to work through the pain. And I think you definitely have done that, which is amazing.
But I think I did a lot of this work even in the last year and a half.
Well, I mean,
you know
when you're ready,
like,
you're ready. You can't, you know what I mean?
I thought I had done the work.
Right.
But I think I had intellectually done the work.
Yeah.
I had not gotten it out of my body.
So many different layers. It's also so many different versions of Jen. When I think about work that I've done in therapy, I'm healing different versions of myself.
Different parts.
Yes, different ages. I'm healing the 30-something-year-old Jodi. I'm healing the 18-year-old Jodi. I'm healing the 12-year-old Jodi.
And you're telling them, hey,
yes,
this one's competent, guys.
Right.
It's almost like you're being a mom to yourself.
Well,
you know?
I think we all are. So another question before we wrap up is like, what do you think of Brett now?
You know, I watched the documentary twice just because the first time I dissociated.
I can imagine.
And I was like, it's over? You know what I mean?
Yes.
But the second time I watched it very objectively and like I was very grounded, and I honestly felt sorry for him because I think when you can understand where someone comes from and the things that they've been through, I have always found that I'm very good at being like, oh, I get you, and I understand why you act the way you do and do the things that you do, and it's because you're broken. You know, like there's something in you that hasn't been fixed or you're not ready to confront yet. And I think you have a deeper level of like empathy and understanding for it. I think the part of me that I've worked on is the part that goes, yes, Jen, but even because you understand why someone did it doesn't mean that it was right.
No, of course
and
not.
not to excuse that behavior. Right. You know what I mean? So I you know, I don't wish any ill will on him. Right. You know what I mean? And yeah, like I said, I felt sorry for him.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
You know, and the person I felt the most sorry for is his family.
Yes.
You know, and his wife.
I know. And she's still with him, right? They're still together? Yeah, I mean, and also you do look a lot like her. But I mean, to be honest with you though, I think about that. I think about, yes, it doesn't excuse it. I don't know what he was going through or what he still goes through, but also like, how do you handle, because there are diehard, you know, Brett Favre fans, diehard NFL fans, just anti-Jenn Sterger fans. You know what I mean? There are people that just want to hate people for no reason. Yeah. How do you deal with all of that, especially now that it's out? I can only imagine. I mean, like...
I think the response has been totally different this time. It's like... It's almost been like 30 or... It's almost been like 30 or 40 to 1 in terms of like positive to negative.
So great.
Comments or
because before it was the opposite, right?
Yeah, and I do this new thing now with trolls where I go, hey, what's that? Why did you write a stranger something like this? And what's your basis of it? Because like, especially if they come at me with incorrect facts, because if you want to watch it and see all of it and all the facts and then still hate me, that's your prerogative. I don't care. Yeah, I'm not staying up late at night and thinking about you. But if you like, I truly just ask people, I go, why did you feel compelled?
Do they answer?
Yeah, sometimes they do. You know, sometimes they do, and sometimes it's, oh, I never thought you would see this.
Of course not. That's like...
And I was like, well, you have my personal... I hope you've enjoyed this personalized attention that you're receiving today. And I go, but I also hope that it makes you remember that there's a person on the other end of the vicious message you're sending. It's so funny. I was talking about this with a friend, and he goes, you know, Abraham Lincoln, like, had this drawer of, like, all these letters that he never sent. And he would get furious and he would write letters to people and then he would just put all these letters in this drawer. And I'm like, and it was just this whole, like, it was a great example of like, you don't have to press send on everything that comes into your head.
No.
You don't.
No, but nobody writes letters anymore, so.
No, exactly. But you know, like they were scrolling. So when they opened that drawer, they were like, man, he was working through it.
This dude is pissed. But also like,
he wrote
wow.
When Andrew Jackson is just a dick and balls with a hat. You know what I mean?
He actually wrote the first dick pic. He sketched it and then kept it in his drawer and sent it to people.
Respectfully.
Respectfully
Do you know
yours.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But we don't have to send everything that comes into our heads.
No.
And when something activates you about another person, it's like, why? What's it tipping off in you?
Right.
What part of you is it making mad? And what does that part need from you to not feel that way? You know what I mean? That's what I work on. That's the kind of stuff that my therapist has worked on with me. And I'm not, and you're not healed. Like, self-work is never done.
No, I'm done though. I'm healed. So healed. I sit here healed.
But it's never, we're a constant project. It's like when you live in a house. Like, it's never done, but you still have to live in it.
Yeah, still have to live in it, and you have to make it the most comfortable. Although there's going to be chaos in there. It's a great...
Your daughter's going to barge in you at the shower.
And tell me that I have a giant vagina. I mean, it's just going to happen, guys. Just get used to it. My vagina is very, very, very normal. Some might say tight.
So you should put better locks on those doors, Jodi.
Seriously. Oh, God, no boundaries. All right, well, tell people where they can find you, please.
At Jennifer Sterger on all the socials. I'm trying to gather emails so that I can flush out the rest of this tour that I have at the end of the year.
So exciting.
I'm finishing up my hour, and I am going to talk about this. I'm really excited about it. Yeah, you know, like, we've rapped about it a few times, and I'm so grateful for all your love and support. And
always,
like I said, I don't think you've gotten enough flowers for how many women in comedy that you have essentially given their start to. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've helped so many women careers absolutely take off, you know?
Thank you.
And again, like, you've raised a lot of women in comedy, Jodi.
I have a lot of girls.
I won't call you ma'am.
Some boys too.
I won't call you ma'am, but I'll call you my big sister.
Oh, I'll take it.
And I'm grateful for your friendship and your mentorship.
Right back at you. And you are helping so many women, because I've definitely come across some of your students. One recently took my class and has the nicest things to say about you. So I paid it forward, and now you're paying it forward, and it just...
We're just going to keep paying it forward.
Until
if someone wants to pay us back,
yeah,
that'd be nice.
I was just going to say, somebody store me some cash. Well, we'll have everything listed below, too. Thank you so much for coming on. This is like special treat for me. Guys, subscribe to this podcast so you never miss a new episode.
Give her a positive text review, 5 stars, do all of the things.
But don't send me a dick pic, and don't call me ma'am. I'm Jodi Miller. Thanks for tuning in to Don't Call Me Ma'am. Don't forget to subscribe and like so you never miss an episode. See you next time.